embassy and he put 2 cops on the hospital last night.
That's got to be Bourne. Super recognizer team on it.
Keep going. There, wait.
Wait a minute, guys. I know that thing. I know it. Guys, there he is. Let's get this work on. That's Matt Damon. Matt Damon, you are completely useless. Forget it. Later this hour, the real story of the Super Recognizer.
Support for The Takeaway comes from LegalZoom. For over 10 years working to help Americans navigate the legal system. With assistance on business formations, wills and trusts, trademark registration, and patents. Legal help is at LegalZoom.com. TIAA. Whether it's investing, advice, banking, or retirement, TIAA is committed to helping those who do good do well. Learn more at TIAA.org.
This is 91.3 WLRN, your South Florida's only NPR news source. I'm Wanda Miles. Wonderful being with you this morning. It's a Thursday morning, August 18th. Just ahead, how technology is helping a generation of migrant kids better their lives. We'll get to that in about 15 minutes in WLRN Miami Herald News.
Yes, South Florida, there is a National Radio Day. It's this Saturday, and WLRN is heading out into the community to celebrate with you. It's our National Radio Day movable feast. We're partnering with local restaurants in Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Key West to say hi to you, our loyal listener, and hear about your favorite radio moments. You can find out more about it by visiting WLRN.org or through WLRN's Facebook page. See you on Saturday.
Mix of clouds and sunshine today, a high around 87.
You're listening to The Takeaway from WNYC and PRI Public Radio International in collaboration with the New York Times and WGBH Boston Public Radio.
Later this hour, human activity disrupting life underwater. But first, in the city above ground in the summer, human activity, asphalt and concrete generate, hold, and store heat long after the sun sets. New York City's temperatures, for instance, are significantly warmer day and night than the surrounding regions. It's easy to create policies based on the temperature outside, like when to open a cooling center or issue air quality alerts. But what about the indoor temperature? How does extreme heat inside our homes impact health when access to an air conditioner isn't an option? Our co-producer, WNYC, has launched the Harlem Heat Project to try and find out. Reporter Sarah Gonzalez says preliminary data show what you would expect, so the Gonzalez team is pushing to know more.
Our preliminary data shows that it's reaching 90 degrees and at times 95 degrees, surpassing 95 degrees inside of the homes of Harlem residents. And we found that when the temperatures drop outdoors, so late at night, early in the morning, when it sort of gets cooler outside, we found that the temperatures are not dropping inside. So it could be 65, 70 degrees outside at night, and it's still in the 90s inside of these people's homes, which means that they basically have no relief. Public health professionals say air conditioning in the summer, for some people, really does need to be treated the way heat is in the winter, which is essentially free. I mean, it's included in their rent.
You spoke with a doctor who really sees heat as a public health issue in precisely this neighborhood and in exactly the places that you've installed these sensors. What does she say?
So Dr. Anar Shah works in the emergency room at Mount Sinai Hospital in Harlem, and she says in a week she might see 10 patients who are affected by extreme heat in the summer, so maybe that's not the primary reason why they come in. They're not coming in complaining about the heat specifically, but it plays a role in their ailment.
I don't know why people don't take it as seriously. I think that it's not as obvious when you look outside your window that there is something dangerous that is happening in the environment.
What she's describing is really what you're trying to unpack in this project. Everything happens indoors. The heat danger happens indoors. The population is inclined to endure and not talk about what it is they're enduring, and the symptoms accumulate, and then we get the deaths, which are very, very hard to track. How do you
only sure way that you know whether or not somebody died from heat, so from hyperthermia, is if you take their body temperature right before they die, and their body temperature is around 104 degrees. So obviously the only time you would have that person's body temperature is if they were already in the hospital and the hospital is getting that information. But when people are inside of their homes and they die inside of their homes, it becomes like a largely subjective process.
How unexpected is something like heat stroke? And did you talk with anyone who actually experienced these symptoms?
I spent some time in the emergency room at Mount Sinai Hospital in Harlem after a string of 90-plus degree days, and the ER was just packed. There were patients in the hallways everywhere. You could barely walk through it. Not all of them came in for heat or because of the heat, but the doctors there said that during heat waves and during the summer months, they ask, do you have air conditioning? Have you been using it consistently? Do you have access to water? Have you been drinking water? Because they know that it does play a role. And so when I was there, I spoke to a 69-year-old woman, and she had just been admitted for heat exhaustion. She lives on the 5th floor in Harlem with no AC.
I couldn't deal the heat. I couldn't. It was too hard for me. And then I feel weak. Then later on, my head started to hurt. And then I start to throw up. And I feel a little dizzy.
Those are the classic symptoms right there.
Right, and she's 69, so she's not on the extreme end of age there, but she has a lot of medical conditions. She has a stomach problem. One of the things that I heard from some public health professionals was that maybe for people like Helen, we should be treating air conditioning as like a prescription, like a doctor could prescribe. Like, Helen definitely needs air conditioning because it's affecting her health.
And this is sort of a judgment that is called into the conversation you had with Eric Kleinberg.
He's a sociologist at New York University, and he's written a lot about heat and Americans' overuse of AC, but also how AC is actually necessary for some people.
Air conditioning is a luxury and not a necessity almost all of the time. But there are times in our hot and humid summers when air conditioning can make the difference between life and death. And I say that as someone who is very critical of Americans' overuse of air conditioning.
So we need to think about, in summers of extreme temperatures, the idea of air conditioning as an entitlement for individuals who are in danger, wherever they are in the socioeconomic part of our community. That's something we really need to develop.
Right, and so what we're hoping to get out of all of our heat sensors is just a sense of what kind of problem this actually is for some people. What health professionals say, the data that they collect, that they give to the health department, that determines all sorts of policies, like when cooling centers open, when cooling centers close. We know that indoor temperatures has helped influence policy that says residents need heat in the winter. And so if we know how hot it actually is getting inside of these homes, at least there will be some record that might be able to influence some policy.
Sarah Gonzalez, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sarah Gonzalez is a reporter for our co-producer, WNYC. Another record, not from Rio, though. July was the hottest month on record, putting 2016 to be the hottest year ever recorded, according to NASA. How do you cope with the heat? Austin, Texas. This year it's easy. I'm sitting outside where it would normally be 100 degrees, and it's 78 degrees and rainy.
My name is Janice, and I'm from the hot south, so I try not to be outdoors in the middle of the day. I plan my life around moving around outside early in the morning and late in the evening.
Hi, this is Bona from Wellington, Florida. Hard to tell really as far as dog days of summer go. We have them 6 months out of the year. I keep cool by swimming. Every day I swim. And there's this thing called AC. It's everywhere down here. Simply everywhere. So all you have to do is walk fast from your car to the grocery store, to the mall, to the pool, to your home, to the theater. That's all you have to do.
You go, Mona. 877-8-MY-TAKE is our number, or comment at thetakeaway.org.
Support for The Takeaway comes from Lumosity with a 10-minute fit test to challenge memory, attention, and problem solving, training programs that draw from 50 brain games, and tools to compare scores with global averages. Learn more at lumosity.com.
Florida's only NPR news source. We're 91.3 WLRN, 91.5 in the Keys, and 101.9 in the Palm Beaches. I'm Wanda Miles. Thanks for tuning in. Roots of Music presents American Roots of Jamaican Music, The Legacy, a musical extravaganza demonstrating the interconnectivity of American and Jamaican music. September 4th at 7 o'clock. Tickets at browardcenter.org. Sponsored in part by the Broward Cultural Division.
Much like Hollywood's Oscars, the Children's Trust Champions for Children Award Ceremony is a highly anticipated event within Miami-Dade's growing community of child advocates. You can join the Children's Trust at this free signature event at the Adrian Arch Center for the Performing Arts on August 25th at 4 p.m. to honor individuals and programs that have reached the highest levels of excellence in direct service and public policy. Information about this year's honorees and how to reserve your seat at the celebration is at thechildrenstrust.org or the Arch Center box office.
This is The Takeaway. I'm John Hockenberry. For the Lone Star State's 150,000 prison inmates, the heat we have here in New York is even worse. It can prove deadly. Less than a third of Texas prisons have air conditioning, and prisons turn into human ovens, as you might expect, where temperatures regularly exceed 100 degrees. Over the past couple of decades, 20 inmates in that state have died from dangerous conditions. A class action lawsuit on behalf of the Wallace PAC unit, which houses 1,400 mostly elderly inmates, has been filed against the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Wallace Nader is an attorney with the Texas Civil Rights Project and is representing those in the Wallace PAC unit. She says the issue of air conditioning in prison has evolved a lot in the last 3 decades.
Relatively recently, we have had a number of lawsuits come about challenging the lack of air conditioning in Texas prisons, and that's been a result of numerous people, at least 20 people since 1998, dying due to the extreme temperatures.
And is it the case that as more and more places outside prison acquire air conditioning, it becomes a kind of social norm than to have it absent in prison becomes more of an issue of social justice rather than some frill that can be argued and disputed about in state legislatures?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think in Texas, in particular, air conditioning is absolutely the norm, and you know that is in part probably because of the increase in technology and the availability of air conditioning as something that we can have in our homes. But ultimately, you know, we have air conditioning in part because it gets so hot here in Texas, and the heat becomes dangerous and deadly. And so it's a matter of not just feeling comfortable, but a matter of being safe and protecting yourself from something that is, as I said, can be extremely dangerous and deadly.
What do you say to the people in Texas who argue that, well, hey, we got a free punitive benefit to the prisons that we didn't anticipate when we built them? If it's harder for them, fine.
Well, the first thing I would say is that the Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. The punishment is taking away their liberty, but that doesn't mean that we can place them in torturous conditions or cruel conditions. And the fact of the matter is that when you place inmates in indoor dormitories where the heat reaches over 100 degrees during the summer on a regular basis, these are deadly conditions, and that's cruel. And then the second thing is that these are human beings. We have to think about it that way. You know, I was reading an article recently about an officer who left his dog in the car and the dog died, and the officer is being charged for animal cruelty, and he might lose his ability to continue being a law enforcement officer if he is ultimately convicted of that. And so, you know, when that happens to animals, people have this strong reaction, and yet when you put humans in the same condition just because they committed a crime, it seems to not have people react less strongly. And so, you know, these are human beings, and the Constitution has certain mandates that really are there to protect us all.
Why is it the case that in this Wallace PAC unit, drinking water to try to cool off and to maintain your health in these hot conditions is not necessarily going to help you?
TDCJ, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, has said that one of their main mitigation measures where the heat is concerned is water and providing water to the inmates. And yet at the PAC unit, the water has been tested with arsenic levels at 2.5 to 4 times the Environmental Protection Agency's mandated limits. And so when the PAC unit tells inmates to drink 2 gallons of water a day or lots and lots of water a day in order to protect themselves from the heat, they're ultimately consuming more of that poisonous water.
Wallace Nader is a staff attorney at the Texas Civil Rights Project. She spoke with us from KPFT, member station in Houston, Texas. Wallace, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is 91.3 WLRN. I'm Wanda Miles. Great to be with you this Thursday morning. 84 degrees now. The time is 9:35.
Much like Hollywood's Oscars, the Children's Trust Champions for Children Award Ceremony is a highly anticipated event within Miami-Dade's growing community of child advocates. You can join the Children's Trust at this free signature event at the Adrian Orr Center for the Performing Arts on August 25th at 4 p.m. to honor individuals and programs that have reached the highest levels of excellence in direct service and public policy. Information about this year's honorees and how to reserve your seat at the celebration is at thechildrenstrust.org or the Arts Center box office.
From the WLRN studios at the Miami Herald, I'm Luis Hernandez. A charter school in Immokalee wants to help migrant farm worker families overcome language barriers by using 21st century technology. Reporter Veronica Zaragovia has this story about how one school is bringing children and their migrant parents into the classroom.
If you get it wrong, you have to try again.
Math in this first grade classroom at the Immokalee Community School doesn't look like it did when I went to school in Florida and was learning subtraction. Marvy Sanchez is working on 19 minus 12 on an iPad. He's struggling, and so I offer a little help.
1, 2. Oh, it's not
Marvy, like all of his classmates, is wearing a school uniform, a blue polo shirt and khakis. He's part of the first class of first graders to use iPads last school year. Beatrice Drago is one of his teachers. She grew up in the same community as the daughter of migrant farm workers.
I try to teach my parents how to use a computer, and not hard enough. So as a little kid, you're more prone to, oh, I made a mistake. Okay, you're not scared to make that mistake. You're not scared to push that button. And it clicks right away for them.
Immokalee is where most of the tomatoes in the U.S. come from during the winter season. But she wants kids to know there's more to life in this town than agriculture.
So they can see, wow, Ms. Drago's parents worked in the fields, but she went to college and did something to help her parents so that she can make her parents proud and not have to go work in the fields like they did.
So to help break that cycle of poverty, the school started sending first graders home with an iPad last school year to videotape themselves reading a story of their choice. But they have to read next to a parent. The goal is to improve their reading skills and get parents to feel like they're integral to their children's education, even if they might be illiterate themselves. I went to see how Marvy, the boy we met earlier, reads with his mom, Irma Sanchez. She's from Guatemala. The family lives in a barely furnished 2-bedroom apartment owned by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. There's no Wi-Fi inside.
Buen día, hermano de mi escuela. Mi escuela estaba teniendo un...
Marvy reads from a plastic folding table in a room he shares with his brother and sister. Irma looks on. This school year, teachers want to see parents asking questions about the story, not just looking on. They also want parents to learn how to use the iPads. The school has recently received grants, including $65,000 from the Southwest Florida Community Foundation for this tech in school. This fall, a group of parents will get to keep some low-cost tablets, and the campus will start to stay open late so parents can use its Wi-Fi. Juana Brown, the school's director, says they usually can't make it to the library after work.
Well, it closes at 5. These are farm workers who go out to the fields on buses. So they don't get home until late, and then it's the routine of home.
Brown hopes they'll use the internet to find community resources, or use email to keep in touch when they leave to pick crops in other states.
Parents are saying, yeah, this is yet another thing in our community where families are feeling marginalized and left behind.
Outside of the Sanchez family's apartment, Marvy's mom, Irma, told me they were leaving Florida before last school year ended to pick blueberries in North Carolina. Florida's tomato season was really bad, and they need the money. But the family plans to be back in Immokalee by this fall. I couldn't confirm whether they're undocumented immigrants. She tells me she's happy that Marby will keep learning to read and write in Spanish in this school in the 2nd grade. She speaks Spanish and Mom, a Mayan dialect spoken mostly in Guatemala. No matter how much of 21st century American life they adapt to, she doesn't want her kids to lose their mother tongue. For WLRN News, I'm Veronica Zaragovia.
This is WLRN Miami Herald News. I'm Luis Hernandez.
Individuals aged 50 or better who are interested in social enrichment can take classes at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Miami. OLLI members can build relationships, take trips, and join special interest clubs in this stimulating community. You can attend a free open house on August 25th at 1 p.m. You can RSVP or learn more about OLLI at miami.edu/OLLI or 305-284-6554. That's 305-284-6554.
It is men who are in U.S. prisons mostly, but today women are the fastest growing segment of inmates in this system primarily designed for men. The Vera Institute of Justice and the Safety and Justice Challenge found in a new report that the number of women behind bars has increased 14-fold in a little over 4 decades, with approximately 110,000 women now incarcerated. It's a predominantly African-American and Hispanic population. Most are poor. Nearly 80% are mothers, and 32% have serious mental illness. That's double the rate of jailed men. Most are incarcerated for low-level, nonviolent crimes often committed to support a drug habit or addiction. The Vera Institute study also finds that jails are ill-equipped to deal with the challenges of women in the criminal justice system. Convict and former inmate Rania Angel Farmer is an exceptional case, and she's seen it all in her life. Now she is a speaker and facilitator at Let's Start, a program dedicated to assisting women in transition from prison life to society in St. Louis. Rania, welcome.
Hello.
110,000 women are incarcerated today, and I suspect that almost all of them have family issues of one kind or another, specialized health issues that the prison was not originally designed to serve. How badly does the criminal justice system fall short in some of these categories?
It falls short definitely, number one, in the medical field. They hire doctors who have got fired from their practices from the outside, and they come in, continue to work as a fired doctor to try to help inmates. And you literally, I've seen a lot of women die, literally at my feet, due to lack of knowledge, due to just not caring, and you literally got to be half dead to even get a ride to the hospital, you know, put it like that. They try to do everything right in that little vicinity that they have with a minimal amount of work or tools that they need, and it's just not healthy at all.
What about family issues, women with children, women who even find themselves pregnant at the time of incarceration?
Well, if they're pregnant, God help them. They're literally got to be like 7 or 8 centimeter, you know, dilation before they even take them out of the building. But they still have to sleep on the same still bunk beds, things like that. But as far as those of us with children there, the program Let's Start, when I was there, they helped a lot in bringing my children from St. Louis all the way up to Vendée, a 2-hour drive, so that I can have these visits with my children, because my family wasn't traveling that far. They figured, hey, you made that bed, lay in it, and I get it, I understand it. But had it not been for Let's Start, I wouldn't have saw my children or my pastor.
Do you think nationally the criminal justice system is ready for this 14-fold increase in 4 decades and the continuing increase in women inmates and all the issues that you described here that increase brings?
They're not ready, and they're not equipped. They don't have enough staff for that. You only have to have a 8th grade education to work in the prison system. Some of them are intimidated by those who have college degrees, and that can cause targeting in the prison system. I've seen that, how smart you are and how smart they aren't, you know, could cause a problem. But because they carry the badge, then there's a constant confrontation right there.
What do you think the impact of mental illness is among the female prison population, and are the facilities that you know about and have experience with come close to dealing with that?
They don't deal with the mental population. I believe the women that I've seen, they're more medicated than dealt with. They'll come in and I've went and talked to some of these people. I pretty much was curious about what was going on because I wanted to find out about PTSD, wanted to find out about schizophrenia,